Well, welcome everyone. It is always nice to have you. Thank you for joining us today. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Casey Fisher. You may have seen my name on emails from your advisor, or potentially I am your advisor. We also have Brooke, John, Mike, and BJ from our staff that have joined us. So if you see them, wave. You can see John, half of John's face, which is good. There he is. All right, and we are very, very, very blessed to have the guest speaker today. You guys filled out a survey, and the two main topics that you needed the most help with were marketing and sales. And we have a guy that could sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves with us, and he trains people to do it. He actually does corporate training, individual training, and he's a very gifted human being, and we are very fortunate to have him. And so I don't want to overdo his introduction. So I'm going to pass the mic to you, Mr. Brett Baker. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, very cool. Thanks, Casey. And I don't know if I like that intro popsicle thing, but we'll see. I recognize Mr. Glass. Bill, do you pronounce your last name Glass? Casey let me listen to the marketing podcast, and I recognize you. I feel like I know you. Hey, so guys, thanks for having me. My friend Max Leverich is on here too. Hey, Max. Yeah, a couple things. Guys, this whole word sales, last time you guys met, that whole marketing thing has gotten so crazy with digital, and it's so different today than even 10 years ago. But I was just, BJ was just saying how sales has stayed relatively the same. And when I say same, it's a game that people are playing. And we got to play the game. And how can we play the game better? And better means how can we actually build trust? So I want to show you a couple concepts today, and I want you to keep that thought in your brain is where is the trust being built? Because when you can get trust with a human being, everything moves faster and it's less expensive. And so there's a way. I want to show you one concept that the world usually uses, and I'm going to call it traditional sales, and you see that word on the screen now. Then I want to share another concept with you for you to get your head around. I want to do that as quickly as I can, and you can take pictures of that screen if you want to on your phone if you see something you want to remember. But guys, here's the thing. I want to get to conversation and questions in your world, because it's not about me. And I want to flash these two concepts quickly, and then you guys can go in your real world and say, hey, here's where we get stuck. Here's where my BS meter goes off with this thing. So, but at the end of this, you basically have three things you can do. You can take nothing. See, BJ, there's my no. You can take nothing. This was a complete waste of your time. Or two, you take something today that you actually parlay into your game this afternoon, and you say, hey, man, I see it differently. I feel it differently. And maybe that'll make you more effective and efficient, or money. Or third, you say, Casey, I got to get with you later and figure this out. And if you're one of those people, I promise you we'll assist you and help you in any way we can if you need to take a deeper dive. So just be open-minded as you do this. So let me dive in, you guys. You're seeing on that screen traditional method. And so when I say that, I want you to think of the traditional salesperson. So guys, in your head, if we asked 100 people, what do you think of? What's the first thing that comes to your brain when you think of salesperson? 99 people don't have a positive word. You probably had a word hit you that started with the letter S. It's such a common feeling when you think of the word sales. So that's who I'm talking about, is the traditional method. This isn't broken and it's not bad. It's just it's the only thing we've done for 4 or 5 decades. Here it is. You find somebody to talk to. You either got to prospect them, or they're coming into your world, email, text, website, all the stuff yesterday or last time you guys talked. Somebody, you got to find someone to talk to, have a conversation with, an email. Here's the next thing that happens. We typically do a presentation, or we try to start solving the problem. Yes, we might ask a few questions, but pretty quickly, 76% of sales professionals will start solving in the first 3 minutes, and sometimes with the price. Then what happens is you got to go for the close. 100 books at Barnes & Noble will tell you, you got to ask for the business. And then here's the last one, is the follow-up. We call it the chase. So guys, whatever vocabulary you want to use, you pick. But It's kind of a show up, throw up, go for the close and hope. It's not wrong. It's just sometimes the only strategy people have. If you have hope in your sales process, you should put your hope in one thing and one thing only, in my opinion, and let's learn to get hope out of it. Here's the challenge with this. The customer is using their process when this is happening. And you guys do this to people that you're trying to buy something from. Here's their first step. They're going to lie to you. Don't take it wrong, but they're going to say, come show me what you got. Hey, can I get some information on it? Can you give me an estimate? Can you give me a quote? How much? What can you do for me? We're thinking about buying. I'm using this person, but we're thinking about a change. It's the lie. They're either going to give you the emotion, they're going to excite you, or they're trying to mislead you and they don't want to tell you that. Here's what happens is they're going to steal your information and commit to nothing. And then what happens is here comes their second lie. They're going to go, hey, this looks really good. We might possibly maybe consider this. Why don't you check back with me in 6 months and see how we're doing? Or the classic one is, let me think it over. And then they hide. And in my generation, they go dark. In Brooke's generation, they ghost you. And now you're stuck in voicemail jail, email jail, and the same person that wanted your stuff, now you can't even get them back on the phone, email, or you're leaving 14 messages. So guys, very quickly, this is what we call the buyer-seller dance. I like to call it the BS dance, but Casey told me I can't cuss today, so I'm going to call it the buyer-seller dance. And if you just notice, this happens without any training. It just happens because the customer is leading the dance. Show me what you got. How much? We'll let you know. And now I disappear. So guys, if you've been in sales anywhere, whether it's a year, a month, or 20 years, you know this happens because the customers don't know anything else to do. Think about even when you walk into a place like Best Buy and the guy says, hey man, how's it going? Can I help you find anything? And you go, no, I'm just looking. You lie to him. And then he turns around and says, okay, cool, let us know. And then you say, hey, where are the monitors? See, the lie can happen that fast. So guys and gal, I want you to see this is a foundational thing. You got to know the game is being played. Some people I talk to don't know this game is going on. And they're just over there answering questions and doing what the customer or the prospect wants them to do. Hope they buy. So guys, we're not talking about a sales thing here that someone sees what you need, gives you a credit card online and it's over and it's a fast sales process. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when you got an answer, an email, someone comes into your world, or you got to go out in the game, trade shows, sell, do whatever it is. So this is a method that it's got to happen with an interaction with someone. It's hand-to-hand combat conversation. So if you've been selling, you know what I'm talking about. If you're new to sales, you don't know this happens to you, and just hang on. It's pretty easy. It'll happen to you this afternoon. So here's that's the first concept, is to know that you know that you know that game is happening. And can you do anything different? If you don't have something, you'll fall prey to it. Here's the second thing I want to share with you. And your BS meter might go off on this, and I'm okay with it. I'm going to call it the pendulum theory. And BJ, this is a little bit what you did by being okay with no and playing a little dumb when you're not dumb. So guys, here's what the pendulum theory is saying. We call this a negative reverse clock. Don't worry about that word, but this is where your prospect or customer is at any one time. So if you notice, 3 o'clock is when they're giving you the money. 9 o'clock, they're telling you to pick a finger. 6 o'clock, they don't know what they don't know. You don't know what they don't know. 7 o'clock is not interested. 5 o'clock and 4 o'clock, it's moving towards sold. It doesn't matter where, all of us might disagree with this, but if somebody said, hey, can I get an estimate on, or can I get a quote, or can I get some information on whatever you guys sell? Some people would say, well, that's 5 o'clock because they're somewhat interested. And those of us that have been selling long enough know that that could be a lie and they're still only neutral. Doesn't matter what you think. I just want you to know that you know that you know where they are, in your opinion, on the pendulum. because it doesn't matter. Here's what I want to show you. Most salespeople, get a pen here. Most salespeople are going to grab that pendulum and pull it up to 3 o'clock, what I call features and benefits, or all the reasons why they should buy from you. So guys, physics says if you take a pendulum and you pull it up and you let go, what's the pendulum going to do? It's going to swing back the other way. That's what happens in the buyer-seller dance. You pull that pendulum up with all the answers to their questions, all the prices, do everything they ask you to do, and then they ghost you and your pendulum falls back the other way. Not all the time, people buy. But stay with me philosophically here. If the traditional process pulls the pendulum up there and hopes, let's do the opposite. What I want you to do is I want you to come over here and stay left of them. Don't know what that sounds like in your world yet, but stay with me. Staying left of them, meaning let's do the opposite of what they think we're going to do. Let's do the opposite of the traditional salesperson. And not saying that if they come in and say, hey, can I get some information on your stuff? You don't go to 9 o'clock and say, yeah, you don't want to use me. It's too far. I'm talking about just a little bit. So guys, philosophically, here's the rule that we have. Never get between where they are and where you want them to go. Everybody else is getting between that, pulling them up and hoping. I want you to get your head around, can I play a little bit harder to get? So an example might be is start to be okay with no. Because it is one of the options. It's just the traditional world, they don't talk about it. They hope it's not no, so they try to stay away from it. And once you understand this pendulum theory and you talk about no first, as no is okay, it jacks with the buyer's mind, it jacks with the prospect or the customer, and they actually come closer. So let me give you a real life example. If somebody was at neutral and they came into your world and said, hey, can I get some information on blank? The traditional person's going to go, oh, you betcha. What's your email? I'll get it right over to you now. The person who stays a little left would say, hey, I'd be glad to get you some information, but can I ask you a question first? I don't even know if it's a fit. I don't even know if I can help. See how I'm really okay with that other option? I'm still being cool. Hey, I'd be glad to get you all the information you need, but can I ask you a question? I don't even know if will make sense. Let me give you a real live example that happened to me 2 weeks ago. In my town, one of the bigger companies to us in Southern Missouri called me and said, hey, Brett, the HR gal, hey, Brett, we're thinking about doing some sales training in the coming year. We're talking to 4 or 5 other companies. Can you send me over the information? Big company. I went, so here's what came out of my mouth. Hey, well, thanks for calling me. I'd be glad to get you that information. I'd be proud to work with you guys. Hey, can I ask you a couple of questions, though, about the initiative? And maybe when we're done, I'm not the right guy to pick. Maybe you take my name out of the hat. See, the rest of the world are going to go, what the are you talking about? Don't tell them you're going to take. But see, here's the way she answered you guys. It was such a interrupt to her pattern. She goes, okay, what are your questions? See, right there, I know everybody else has sent her information by now. What happened in the end is those 4 or 5 went away and we booked an appointment and got our leaders in and it's over. Now that doesn't happen beautifully all the time, but guys, think about what I'm happening. If I say Marco, you immediately think what? Polo. It didn't take any time in your brain to associate that Marco Polo. What I'm asking you to do here by staying a little bit left of them is interrupt their Marco Polo. And how do we do that? We don't act like the traditional people. So, last thing on the second concept, and we'll talk. We're going to put this another way into the submarine, a symbol of a submarine. Don't get hung up on that, but a submarine runs silent and deep. You don't know it's there. See, the traditional salesperson's an aircraft carrier. It's a battleship. You see them coming 26 miles away. You know they're selling you. The submarine is silent and deep. You don't know it's there. So when I'm saying stay left of them, they don't know you're staying left of them. They just can feel different. And what's the difference? Trust. This guy is okay with no. He's not trying to sell me. This girl's, she gets me. So here's the steps to the non-traditional system, and you can take a picture of it when I'm done. Bonding and building rapport and upfront contracts. Buzzwords, you don't have to remember them, but guys, that's about getting permission to talk about the truth, and the truth might be no is okay. Then we're going to uncover what's the motivation to change or buy what you want. Is it to get gain, or is it to take away my pain? And can you hear and feel and see what it is? Do you have the muscle to uncover it before you do all the work? You got to talk through money and time before the quote, not after. Before you solve the problem, not after. You got to understand the decision-making process. You guys don't look at that word and think that's where the decision's made to use you. That's where you're uncovering their decision-making process. When? Who's all involved? What's the process look like? How does it work around in your world, in your home? If it's a company or an individual. Some people, their decision process is right now in their brain. Then let's fulfill the solution. And then let's deal with buyer's remorse. So you guys, I'm very aware those are some buzzwords there for you. Don't get hung up on them. But I want you to see here is this middle part. We're doing all that stuff. It can be done in 90 seconds. It can be done in 90 minutes. Don't put a time element on it. But I'm not going to fulfill a solution till I have those things. They don't know I'm getting it because I'm underneath the water. That's completely the opposite of the traditional salesperson. So if you're tired of being lied to, you do everything and you don't like your closure percentage. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, I'm closing 8 out of 10, I wouldn't change a thing. If you like what you're doing, don't change. The traditional process isn't broken, it's just exhausting. If you're looking for a way to build trust to be different than if you have competitors, consider diving in this thing and being seen, felt, heard differently. So I've been doing this a long time, you guys. Most of the time somebody's got a BS meter goes off, or they say, here's where I get stuck. What's happening? How can I change that and do differently? So can I just switch gears here, Casey? And I'm not paying attention on who's coming in and what, but help me.
Yeah, so this is fantastic. You know, we're getting a massive crash course in something that has taken you years to master, and we all need it. We all could use it. And one thing that you were talking about that I just love, and you and BJ were talking about it before we started, was I had a mentor one time tell me, go for the no. Because
Yes.
It is a pendulum. So if you can get them there, and I love that analogy of get out of their way from where they are and where they want to be. And in fact, you know, and some of my apprentices have heard me talk ad nauseum about the book that we mentioned before, Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference.
Yes.
And he talks about the power that no holds for the person that says it. It gives the illusion of power. It also gives you more leverage than you actually think it does. But one question that I was thinking about was, so the traditional method or your method is when somebody's lying to you. I'm interested. Tell me more about this. Let me go. And we start going from 6 to 5 to 4 to 3:30. And then the whole time they're just being nice. I mean, there's a lot of nice people out there that will screw you out of time and money. Yep. How can you start to tell when somebody's legitimately heading to 3 o'clock or they are full of crap?
Yeah. So if I can answer it this way, Kate, I love the question because I think sometimes people see this pendulum theory only as it's negative. But guys, I'm going to write 4 o'clock here. Let's say somebody here is at 4 o'clock. How do we stay left of that? If someone says, hey, I really like your product, I'm excited to buy it, can I get some information? Most traditional people say, great, here's the information, and they believe them. What Casey's saying, you guys, is how do I stay and identify that, and how do I call it? You're not a negative person, you're positive right with them, you're enthusiastic right with them, but you're a little bit left. Here's what it sounds like. Hey, I'm excited that you love it. But help me, before I get you information, why are you so excited? Why are you saying that? So guys, we call that a reverse. forgive me for getting a little technical, but when somebody asks you a question or makes a statement and you don't want to answer it, it's not because you don't want to. You want to test them to see if they're that happy. You soften it and reverse it back to them. And the softening statement is to make them feel validated for asking. Hey, I appreciate the question. I love that you're excited, but help me, little BJ's dummy curve, help me. Why are you excited about it? So see, do you remember in my example, hey, Brett, can you send this information sales train? Hey, thanks for calling me. Can I take a step back and ask you questions? Maybe I'm not the right guy. See, I'm testing it. So guys, when people are happy and they're moving towards 3 o'clock, but you don't have the money and you're wondering if you're getting played, test them. Go not okay. Struggle, even though you're not struggling. Act like you're struggling and saying, I didn't think yet you were this fired up yet. I didn't think you were ready to go here. I didn't think you wanted information. Why is that? And sometimes you get intel that gives you a different strategy. So good point, Casey. Casey, can I ask Bill a question?
Absolutely.
Bill, again, I feel like I know you because you interacted with that gentleman last time. Bill, I can't remember what business you were in. Help me.
I am in soap, candles, and beard sales.
Yep. So not really a long sales cycle. People see it, have an emotion, and buy it or not. Or are you selling to someone that's going to offer those things?
Well, actually, I wanted to ask you a question, and Casey knows where I'm going with this because we had a conversation about it yesterday. A flower shop originally purchased about $700 worth of products from us.
Yep.
And watching your the PowerPoint, it showed me not only where I went wrong, but Casey kind of directed me back, and the way I was feeling was exactly what Casey was saying would happen.
Yep.
Long story short, how do I get my feeling of having to make that sale? Like I have to make it work for everybody. It's my responsibility to make everybody happy,
Yeah. So hang on, Bill. Let me ask you a question. Are you a firstborn?
Yes.
Yeah. How did I know that?
It's my beard.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Professional salespeople that fall in the firstborn category, they tend to feel like they have to do that because they'll disappoint mom and dad if they don't. And so you have a childhood message that's jacking with you, that's stopping certain behaviors to get to the truth. And it's not a bad thing, Bill. I'm the firstborn too. I struggled with it too. We want to give, and hope that we're cool and everyone's happy. But the problem is we sometimes are the last one to go to the bank. Or we cut our price to win. They take advantage of us. And we got to realize it's a sales game. So, Bill, that's one of those things where we got to, hey guys, I'm going to write on the screen the letter B, which stands for behaviors. I'm going to write the letter A that stands for attitudes. And I'm going to write the letter T that stands for techniques to build trust. So what we're talking about here is going to be one of those three components to do all this stuff. And what Bill's talking about here is Bill sometimes gets in front of them on the pendulum because his firstborn want to serve and make everybody happy, blocks him from asking a question instead. So Bill, have you ever seen the movie Tommy Boy?
Yes.
My sense is guys like you and I used to go, okie dokie. And I'd do anything.
Well, and I noticed that this feeling came in, after we give our price points, we give our sheets to them. It came when I was met with resistance.
Yep.
It was, well, that's a little high, or,
Yep.
Come to find out that this lady was just kind of dicking me around,
Yep.
that's the way I felt. It may not be the case, but
Yep.
yeah.
So if you can see my screen, there's line number 1. Bill, that lady has probably never gone to buyer school. Her daddy taught her to do that. But guys, if you're selling to companies, companies actually take their people who are buying and train them to do the flinch. What's the flinch look like? If you give me the price and I look at it and I go to the next page and here's the flinch. Oh God. It's called the flinch. Now, Bill, I don't think she went to training to do that, but I think her dad said, hey, you always ask for the discount. You always ask for the price. You always see if they can sharpen their pencil. That's a famous English saying. Do you think you could sharpen the pencil on this? Bill, what's so bad is when we as sales professionals, we give people the price and we say, hey, we can do better. We can cut the price. We can sharpen our pencil if we need to. See, that's a childhood message that says, I'm not worth it. So, Bill, I'm not hearing, you could adopt probably a different sales process, because if you're just providing what you have and hoping, that's one thing. But we got to get out of that head that firstborn tendency thing. We just got to mine that out of there and give you a new belief. Because you're not a bad person without it.
Well, I appreciate that. But what I hear you saying is that I have to stop listening to my parents right now.
It's always about mom, isn't it? It is. No, it's a classic one, Bill. I suffered from it when I first got around this process. I realized my firstborn tendency to make mom and dad happy, and I wanted everybody to be nice. It's a conflict thing. If you avoid conflict or internalize it, we don't want to deal with it. Where some people dive right into conflict and are bored unless they're creating conflict. Max is one of those guys. He likes to stir crap up. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
No, that was good. I think stirring up conflict, nobody wants to get in a fight. I mean, if you want to get in a fight, then you're looking in the wrong direction, I guess. But in a way, it is combat. Sales is combat. You're going to say one thing. How can I do one other thing to go against it? How can I use what you're saying? Not necessarily against you, because I said this to you yesterday, Bill. This book is, with this individual, this woman, if she gets the deal she wants and it makes her feel good, but it makes you feel like crap, that's a bad deal for everyone. And Brett, I would assume that you'd say the same thing. And I actually have kind of there's a bit of a transition question that was asked right off the bat. And I don't know if he was on the last Zoom or not. Anyway, this veteran has the patented rights to a product that he invented, and he's selling it to the government. And what's happening is the end user of this product is not the department that's buying it. So the 0311, the MOS, the 0311 is going to use the product, but somebody else is buying it that's just sitting behind a desk, and they're looking at numbers, they're looking at all kinds of things. So that's the scenario, but I would assume that happens a lot in the corporate world, especially some of the higher ups and computers and such. How do you go about that dilemma?
Yeah. So I get this question a lot when people get RFQs or they're dealing with procurement and the person doesn't get a flying flip about who the end or how they're going to use it. They just want to get the best. And then you run into people, you guys, that actually get paid bonus if they beat you up even more. Crazy. So in a general statement, we've got to learn to ask them questions that they can't answer, and we got to get the end user involved. They're going to be trained, they're going to be good, but I was telling the guys on here a few minutes before some of you jumped on, we are in era 3 sales. Let me explain. Era 1 was back in 60s and 70s, door-to-door, fast decision, I'm on to the next house. It is what it was. In the 80s, they said, we got to start asking better questions as salespeople. The problem with era 2 was the questions they were asking, the customer or prospect already knew the answers. It wasn't any really different. Today, we have to ask questions that they don't know the answers to. And that's the value we bring, is to get those answers. So procurement people, buyers, it's going to be the toughest sales call ever. But we want to learn to take our features and benefits of our stuff and not tell it. We got to turn those into questions that cause them either unknown answer or causes them pain. So I know that's a global statement, Casey, but I don't what that sounds like, but hey, Mr. Buyer, when the end user asked about X, what did he say? Well, I don't know that. Okay, sounds like we need to get him on the phone. Sounds like we need to get him involved here. Yeah, but can you just get us the price down? Well, I don't know how I would do that without understanding his situation. So you see how I'm trying to interrupt that buyer's Marco Polo. I got to be seen, felt, heard differently. She can't or he can't use the same tactics on me. But I got to be okay with no, because they could tell you to pick a finger. And you got to be ready for that. But you just say, hey, now that you've told me to pick a finger, it's over. Can I ask you a question? If they say yes, we start over. And we keep putting them in pain. So Jason, I know you're smiling. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
As I say, I don't know if there's a chat going on or if anybody's got a thought. Just interrupt us if you got one.
Yes, there is. There's some chatter going on, at least in the everyone category. We had another one. So we have a caterer. He's a barbecue caterer out of Southern California.
Yeah.
And a lot of his leads, it's such a competitive market, but a lot of his leads come from Yelp or an online platform like that. Yeah. And basically they're just price shopping. And so tone being as important as it is, how do you navigate that and overcome that challenge?
So Yelp, I'm assuming it comes through digitally, like an email type thing. And hey, how much is it for 40 people or what? Is it pretty, Casey, are you assuming that's kind of where that question's coming from? They get some email and get asked the question, how much would it cost to do an event?
Yeah. Just kind of a general pop-up sale that goes to 4 or 5 catering companies within the criteria that they pick.
Yeah. So answering email is a little different probably because there's not any body language, there's not any tonality. But whether you're gonna, if there's any way to answer that, be one of the 5 companies that picks up the phone and actually calls the person. Now, some people may not want to answer the phone. They want the email response and they're just throwing it out there, and it is what it is. You can't get around that. So you're going to have to answer an email, but you can still do the same things. But let me give you a general way. Let's say you had a company send out an RFQ of 5 people, or this Yelp goes to 5 people, and you could get on the phone or you could get in an interaction going in the email. One of the Marco Polos is, hey, I'd be glad to answer this, but I'm curious, why us? Now they could talk for 5 minutes and you can learn and get some intel, or they might go, I don't know, you're just one of the 5 on the list. Okay, so help me. I'm struggling. I'm going not okay, even though I'm not. I'm acting like it. Help me. Is it just you're just trying to get a price and that's the only reason? You're not concerned about food quality. You're not concerned about portions. You're not concerned about this or this. You just want someone in the cheapest price and just check the box. So Otterroll, if that's what they want, is the cheapest, they don't even care if it tastes good. They just need to check a box. That may not be your fit. If you're a business that says, I want to serve the middle, I want to serve the top, I want to be the most expensive and the highest quality value, and I don't want to do this, that's how you determine whether you're going to play. So why do that, guys? Why interrupt the Marco Polo? Why to get in there and start questioning a little bit of the process of what they're really looking for? That's what in the submarine, if you see that on the screen, that's the pain. I'm trying to determine what is the emotional, compelling reason to do business with me. And I'm saying that in your guys' case. I'm trying to uncover why me. So if I was selling Dasani water and someone says, hey, Brett, I'm getting 5 bids from 5 different water companies, I would say, God, I'd love to participate, but help me understand something. Why would you pick Dasani? I mean, why'd you include us? You might get a smart ass that says, well, don't you want the business? Okay, yeah, we'd love to, but go back. Well, why you're going out to 5 people? What water are you using now? Or who'd you last use in the barbecue the last time? Do they not get a chance at this? So no, it's the first time we've done it. Oh, okay. So you're not concerned about some of the things that have already done barbecue catering. Well, what do you mean concerned? See, now I got them. I'm trying to, here's another way to look at it, guys. You never want to say anything derogatory about a competitor ever, but I'll facilitate the fight in their head. And that's those questioning strategies. You want to ask them questions to take them to a place they didn't think they were going to go And when you do that and you're curious and you're asking questions, they soften their position and sometimes reform it to go a different direction than they plan to go. When you pull that off, sometimes those 4 competitors, those 4 other bids, they go away. They go away in their head and they don't even have a chance, and they ghost them, and you can get it. So I think, Casey, again, you can just answer the email with the question and hope, or you can try to interrupt that Marco Polo and get them involved in an email exchange, a text exchange, a phone call. Here's the thing today, you guys, the phone is actually a very old-fashioned way to do business, but it's actually the pattern interrupt because everybody emails and texts. So it's so bizarre when somebody sends out information for 5 people and they get a phone call, they go, hello? And it's freaking them out that someone's actually called them back. So what's old is actually new again.
Yeah,
But
what's
it's-
old is new. That's good. The interrupt the Marco Polo and yeah, I mean, there's just some great questions that you ask that go industry wide. It doesn't matter. You know, the whole thing of you're not concerned about fill in the blank.
Yeah.
I've never even thought about that. And what a great question to ask your child who's trying to negotiate staying up for 2 more hours.
That's it.
You know, aren't you concerned about not being 6'7" and playing in the NBA? What do you mean? I got to sleep?
Right.
That's what I've heard. Well, I got another question, and I think we have a lot of this down this road. It's kind of down the value road. So I'm just going to read it. This individual, this is Jason. He's a hand engraver, and he says the biggest resistance that I meet with the customer is assisting that customer in understanding that what I provide has more value than a laser engraver. The question is, what would you recommend? And I assume that, yeah.
Casey, can you say the buzzword one more time? What's the value between 2 things? What were those 2 things?
The more value than a laser engraver and a hand engraver.
A laser engraver and a hand engraver. Okay.
Right.
So am I hearing that this person sells a laser engraver? It's a higher quality, a higher price thing than a hand?
So Jason's a hand engraver. So he'll take a knife and hand engrave your initials into it, or a spoon and hand engrave a logo or something in it, whatever he's capable of doing. Vice someone who's putting that same spoon or knife into a machine and punching in the software that needs to go in.
Okay. So am I hearing that Jason is an artist and wants to sell the value of his hand? Oh, yeah, beautiful. Okay. So Jason can say, well, I'm an artist. I have high quality. I'm a master at this thing. You need to pay me more and do it. Don't let some machine do it. I can do it. See, that's traditional. It's coming out of our mouth. We got to remember, guys, remember the buy or sell or dance. Whose ideas do people like the most? Their own. Whose do they resist? Others, especially salespeople. Because remember, what do people think of salespeople? Not you guys, but when what's coming out of our mouth and our opinion, we're selling. And people don't, they want their own. So guys, that's why we got to ask them questions or tell them about other people. So is it Jason Reed we're talking about? Jason, is that you? Yeah. So Jason, if somebody says, hey, why should I use your personal engraving and not the machine? If I want to stay left, the truth is maybe you shouldn't. See, I need to shut up and not start talking. The truth is maybe you shouldn't. My customers are the ones that don't want the machine. The machine
Right.
might be perfect for you. If you're not looking for A, B, and C, quality, blah, 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 whatever the features are, if you're not looking for that, I'm not your guy.
Right.
And see, Jason, if you can hear in that, you're so comfortable with no, I'm not trying to keep you broke, but what the irony is when you show that first, the people actually go, well, maybe I don't want to do the machine thing, and I want to be proud that someone hand engraved this stuff and I paid more. See, people will pay more when they sell themselves to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They hate to pay more when somebody else is convincing them, but if they convince themselves to pay more, it's over. Guys, we've all paid more for something we know we wanted. We know we have. So Jason, does that make sense on the pendulum theory? If you get into a situation where you're trying to sell value, stop selling it and ask them a question. It might sound like this. Why would you pay more to have it hand engraved? I mean, that's what I do, but why would you do that? I have a lot of people that do it. I'm not saying you, but why would you do that? Well, I'm not so sure I'm ready to. Got it. The machine grave is probably perfectly okay. Go get it done. You'll be happy. Now that it's over, can I ask you a question? I had a customer that had a machine grave and he was a little disappointed with what, Jason? What's a machine grave that you could be disappointed with? Anything?
Customization.
Yeah.
Customization. They can't really customize anything.
Yeah, here it is. I had a customer that came to me and he was going down the route of the machine, but he was kind of in a box. He couldn't come out of their templates and outside the box of what he really wanted to customize. So he decided to invest more in his own customized engraving. My sense is that's not important to you. Do you hear me staying left of them? I'm not trying to be a jerk. You got to be careful. You're not I was going to say the D word. You're a jerk. It's not being sarcastic, you guys. It's really embracing the truth, and I'm okay with it. The irony is some people are afraid to stay left in the truth because they don't want to lose the deal, but they don't have it anyway. And the irony is actually people come closer. It jacks with their brain. This guy's not selling me. Jason, does anybody on this call know what a Ford 8N tractor is? A Ford 8N. Have you ever heard of that, Jason?
Yes, a tractor.
Yeah. They're like chicken shit. They're everywhere. So I had one and I had it for sale for $2,000. And this old boy down the road about 4 miles had one for sale and it was $4,000, but his was all done. Beautiful. Mine was a junk. It ran, it did its job. It just didn't look pretty. I had this guy drive up from Arkansas and he wanted to look at my tractor and he starts looking at it. And the first thing I say is, hey, I got to tell you right out of the chute, there's a guy down the road. He's got one $4,000 all done. Transmission's done work. Yeah, I think that's the tractor. I don't know if I'd buy mine for $2,000. I just want you to know that. So he asked me a couple questions and I said, hey, again, I think even that guy put on a new paint job for that $4,000. I really think that's the tractor you need to go get. He looks at me and says, you're not a very good salesman, are you? And I said, well, I just don't want you to buy the wrong tractor. He pulls out $2,000 and buys my tractor and trailers it away. I didn't even say anything about buying my tractor. And Jason, you see how once you get it, they actually come closer and they don't feel sold and they actually sell themselves in their head. It's weird. So BJ, can you hear now, since we don't know each other, but can you hear when you said, I got to be okay with no, and I got to play a little dumb and I find myself in the office of the CEO? You see how your submarine was deeper than what they could see?
Yes, sir.
They didn't know it. Yeah, good one, Jason. Jason, any idea how long have you been doing engraving?
I've only done engraving well for about a year.
Okay, so all of 2019 or just half?
Just 2000, I'd say half of 2019, half of 2020. There's more time involved in engraving itself that I put into it, but I'm starting to do it well.
Yeah, cool. Jason, you don't have to answer since you don't want to. I'm just curious, do you feel like you left some money on the table trying to convince people?
No, I actually talked to somebody who explained how pricing works. And the way he explained it to me was basically, if you take a car in and get it serviced by somebody at a dealership, that's about what we should charge for what we do in the area. And I recently had someone come in and they brought a brass plate that was a door push, and they asked for a circa 1894 to be hand engraved on it.
Okay.
And I showed him about 3 or 4 different ways to do it. $100 is what he said. So
cool. Nice.
But before I learned the pricing strategy, absolutely, I left money on the table.
Beautiful, because they can't send that someplace and have a machine bang it out. It's got to be custom, right?
Right.
Yeah, nice.
And the fonts, the fonts that they want. Yeah.
Yep. Very, very cool, man. I like your price. I like that you're getting some value for your craftsmanship and your artistry. That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
Jason, thanks for sharing that. This is good. I mean, so much of sales, it just is such an art, and I think that's part of the reason why people shy away from it and struggle with it, because I'm not an artist. I can't be an artist. Well, this is a studied art. This isn't a hand painting, hand engraving thing. I couldn't hand engrave. That's not me. But I could learn to become more like Brett, which we should put on a t-shirt. Become more like Brett. And sell as be the submarine. Don't be the F-18. You know, there's a time and a place for that. But I think generally speaking, every day we can all navigate our day and these negotiations that we face every day and opportunities every day, slow and steady, deep, just get out of other people's way. I mean, I can look at times where I've had people come to my door, and I hate that. I don't want you knocking on my door selling me something. That's why I put the sign in the yard and the fishing line across so that you don't walk across my yard. And I have done that. But I ended up with 2 vacuum salesmen in my house, and I didn't even need a vacuum. I just felt bad. I was being too nice, and I just let him kind of walk on me. This was before I met Max, and Max changed my whole life. So,
Nice.
So anyway, I mean, there's a lot to that. I guess, I mean, we have a pretty specific question that we can ask. And then I had a couple that I wanted to kind of round out. And if other questions come up, please fire them off. If you guys have any, BJ, John, please just speak up. The question is this: if a product is in early R&D stages, but we have developed several prototypes, what consideration is there for charging for the final samples? So XYZ company wants a sample. It's going to cost $1,000 to make it. Should he charge his customer for that?
Yeah, great question. So if you say, hey, it's $1,000 for the sample, they're going to hear $1,000 and they're going to put that into mom and dad's radar that they told them. And some people are going to say, geez, that's a lot of money for just a sample. So if you can go to the pain step and uncover what's the loss or the challenge not having that sample, and you can actually quantify that and get them to do the math. Let's say someone said, well, if we had that, we'd probably have another 100 grand. You see how the $1,000 is a no-brainer. So let me say that again. If you uncover the gap of not having what you have, and you can quantify that dollar amount as high as you can get it, it will justify the sample or the first step, or what we call the monkey's paw, the small ball before the big ball. So if you're gonna suggest someone do $1,000, can you get at least 10% of 10 grand, 20 grand, 100 grand of pain to justify that? If you don't have that number, they'll put it into their own radar and go, yeah, I don't know if that's going to make sense for me. They're intellectual. You got to get them emotional. How do you do that? Get a quantifiable number around their pain. See, if some guy says to me, I'm struggling with closing, I'm only closing 4 out of 10, and I need 5 and 6 to hit my goals. And I say, okay, what's the gap? You're closing 4 out of 10 and making what? And if you close 6, you're making what? Well, I'm making 100. If I could get 5 and 6, I'd make 150. Okay, so you got a $50,000 problem. Yeah. Does it make sense to throw a couple $1,000s at that and start studying something different? See, to get 50, if I do 2, see, that's a no-brainer for that person. So if you got a $1,000 R&D sample, can I get at least $2,000 or $10,000 of pain to justify that sample? Is that, Casey, is that verbalized okay? Does that make sense to you? I don't know who had the question, but you're on mute, man.
I had the question. Thank you for your time, first of all.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, David.
Okay. My question is, well, my company is in the government defense space, and right now we're working with a unit to supply them with machine gun weapon mounts for their vehicles.
Okay.
And my question is in relation to customer service. How do you maintain touches to the end user beyond the sale to remain relevant to when they have more funding available? I'm always at the forefront of their mind over the competition, especially when there's a high probability that communication will be significantly decreased because of their deployment schedule.
Okay.
So how do you maintain that communication with limited communication? So you're always at the forefront of the minds of the people in charge of purchasing.
Yeah. Yeah. So David, am I hearing that you could email, text, phone, or visit them, whatever, once a month or once a year? You have that power and control with you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, let's say you did it once or you did 100 times. It doesn't matter. I would come in here left of them, if you can see my screen, and act like they're disappointed, but tongue in cheek. It'd be something like this. Hey, David, I was just checking in. My sense is you're disappointed with our machine gun mounts. You regret them. And if they go, are you kidding me? They're awesome. What are you talking about? You know you got someone who's happy. If they go, well, we do have a concern. Boy, now I'm there to fix it.
Right.
So either way, you can use that left theory, whether it's a funny or it's serious, you pick. But what I'm hearing in your question is what's the cadence? How often and when should I do that? So David, I don't know what the answer is there, but they have the answer. So the truth is, hey, Bob, how often do you want me to stay in front of you so I can stay relevant with you and serve you and be not just a vendor, but a partner on this thing? If he says, man, I don't want to talk to you more than once a year, you got to consider eating that. If he says, man, you can call me every month if you want to, I don't care.
Okay.
They'll give you the answer. If you don't like the answer, then you got to challenge it. But sometimes they'll tell you the answer, where Casey might say, hey, I call me every 6 months, and Bill might say, hey, I don't want to talk to you for a year. I'm cool. Everybody is going to answer that differently, David. You don't have to control it.
Okay, sounds good. And lastly, what kind of consideration could I implement in terms of sending them literature or email marketing or any of that stuff? Or once I establish that rapport, just keep it at that and don't go overkill like I was a real estate.
So David, I'm not saying I'm right, but I have this thing that says if my competition's doing it, I'm going to stop and do something different. So they're sending emails and LinkedIn's and tech, whatever that. This might sound crazy to you, but I don't know if you have 1,000 of these or 6. I'd send them an old-fashioned handwritten note.
Okay.
I don't know what you'd say, and it depends on your rapport with them, but they got to open it up. I mean, think about it. How many handwritten notes did you get last week versus emails?
Right.
Everybody else sends digital now. David Burnett could be the guy that interrupts that Marco Polo and says, Bob opens it up and says, hey, Bob, just thinking about you, appreciate your business.
Okay.
Next 6 months, I'm like, hey, Bob, I had a thought. Can I call you sometime? Or I'm going to call you next week. Just crap like that. It's old. Do what everybody else is not doing and see what it feels like. That's staying left.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good question. Mr. Harris, my sense is your bullshit meter is going off on all this. All right, your face, do you play poker, Mike? I can't hear you, you're on mute, but boy, you ought to. You'd be good at it.
Sorry, sir. I do get that a lot. I apologize.
No, it's okay. You had me fooled.
No.
Casey, what else?
Well, one of the questions I always like to ask in any informational interview or time that I get with an expert is, what should I be studying? What should I be reading? What kind of things at my level to get to your level can I be doing to become better?
So because you guys are military gurus, I would encourage Casey to, I think Boss did a nice job in that book. I did think that's awesome. If you're really serious about a sales process and interrupting that Marco Polo, I would find the book, You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. It's a long ass title, but you can't teach a kid to ride a bike at a seminar. If you're not a big, these are fast read. And then the other book, as far as this is pertaining to, is Sandler's 49 Rules for Salespeople. Sandler's 49 Rules. And that'll start jacking with you and getting you to be left of people. It'll get you to think differently about sales.
That's
Those,
great.
Those two, I think, or 3 would be a great one.
Yeah,
Can I,
that's fantastic.
Go for it, BJ.
I just wanted to ask for you, because you have it in a lot better professional lingo, but can you just touch on how to steer away from price? Because I just feel like anytime you're talking about price, you're not really selling. You're just
Yep.
talking.
So I'm going to soften and reverse them. If they come out of the gate too quick for me on price, I'm going to say, man, I appreciate that, but that's page 8. I'm still back here on page 2. Can I ask you a question first? Hey, Bob, I'll give you a price to your blue in the face, but I got to understand what's going on. I got to figure this out. Give me some permission to study, curious about some things. And then when I'm done, we can determine if we got to go there. A lot of times, BJ, that'll work.
No.
If they press me, impress me, I might throw in there and say, well, it's a lot. It's more than you're going to want to pay. And if they leave, they weren't ever going to buy it anyway.
Amen.
Yeah.
I like that.
I want to be positive. Hey, I'll be glad to give you a price, but that's kind of page 8. I don't even know what the hell I'd price. Can I ask you a question? If they say, dude, how much is it? Well, it's a lot. It's more than you want to pay. Try me. Well, we have people in the 5 to 6, and we have some people in the 9 to 12. What my sense is, either of those are too high, and it's over. You can give them the price, but do it in a bracket if you have range. Don't answer it if you don't have to, because it doesn't make logical sense in sales, because it's all intellectual. It's not emotional. I got to get them emotional. People buy emotionally and then justify their decisions intellectually. We've all walked past something and we picked it up and we looked at the price tag and we said, yeah, that's not happening. And then we've done it and we go, man, I got to have that. And we justify it to our wives later.
Yeah. Are you sure you weren't a psychological operations officer in a past life?
I thought about it. That'd be fun.
Those guys are a hoot to talk to.
They are. And BJ, it's funny you say that, because we have a rule running this submarine. It's you got to be a Broadway play put on by a psychiatrist. You got to go underneath the water and probably not be who you want to be. You got to act. You got to play the game. But the game is trust. It's not trying to do cheesy sales crap. We're trying to build trust with someone. And sometimes the truth is, hey, it's a no. I'm high. Why would you ever pay more for what I do? Why should we use you? Maybe you shouldn't. Can I ask you a question? That's the truth.
Yeah. I feel like this is great, because it's hard for me to say it and when people aren't versed in sales, but it's very difficult for me to cut price on my value.
Oh, man.
I mean,
if you're not, and BJ, if you're not broke, you shouldn't do it unless you get something. If somebody says, hey, can you come off 10%, but I'll sign a 3-year contract instead of 1 year? Well, that's a good deal. If you give, let's get something. Life isn't like that. If I never see you guys again, I never talk to Casey again, I'm totally okay with giving this time, because I love you guys for fighting for our freedom. But in business and sales, you tend to kind of got to get something to give, so it's a negotiation. Life's built around it. So,
well,
Casey, what, again, if anybody wants to talk about this offline, I'm there. Go ahead, Bill.
Sorry, just real quick. You kept bringing up an emotional connection.
Yeah.
So with the product that we make and sell, how can I, when they see a lavender soap bar,
Yes.
they're going off of what they think lavender smells like.
Yes.
Is there any other, besides a scratch and sniff screen, is there anything else that we can do to kind of help create that emotional connection online?
Bill, the only way I would know about it is if you had a conversation that is take them back to that past and have them tell you about that belief system of the past with lavender. Or if it's a chat or a type, you got to say, hey, tell me where you've done lavender in the past, and get them talking. See, when the other human being is talking, they become emotional, and we got to listen. We have 2 years to listen to that emotion and stop talking. We call it the 70-30 rule, Bill. Let's listen 70% of the time and only talk 30% of the time in the sales process. If you can pull that off, they're selling themselves eventually. or
All right, thank you.
they're done. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And there's all kinds of routes that we could take with that. If you're talking 30% of the time, 93% of what you're saying isn't coming out of your mouth. It's how you say it and your tone and your body language, etc. It's just an interest. These books, I'm telling y'all, some of you don't like to read, but you better learn or listen to them because man, they are fantastic. Never Split the Difference is one of the best business books that I've ever read. I think sales is the best skill that you can have. You will always, and if you remember, Joe Salatin said, if you have a skill, it doesn't matter what the economy is like. If you have a tangible skill that can be applied across industry, you will always find work. You will never have to worry about money. And sales is probably one of the best things that you can learn to do. And the beauty of it is you could pay Brett, whatever his fee is to train you. But you can also learn a lot of the basics just for free, on free stuff or a $15 book or a $30 book, and stair step your way up. I mean, most of us are not ready for the massive amount of information we would get from Brett over and over and over, and the ballparks that he plays in. Not to say that we couldn't benefit from it, but just take it one step at a time. I think that's kind of an important deal. But sales is a big deal. I can't stress that enough. You guys try to sell me all the time on things, on your business, on buying a piece of equipment, on investing in such and such, or you're trying to sell yourself, which is a dangerous game. But just try to embrace it. Don't be afraid of it. BJ, that was one thing that I've always admired about you, is your fearlessness in terms of being told no. And not a lot of people can cold call. I used to cold call for collections, and that was the worst job in the world. But it became a game. I burned, it was a warrior deal for me. It trained me on how to talk to people who are angry all the time. So anyway, treat it as such and try to educate yourself as much as possible.
Nice. Well said. Go ahead, Jason. Do you have a thought? I thought I saw him light up.
Yes, sir, I did. When I haven't done this in my business yet, but when I advertise something for sale on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, I always build in an extra percentage for them to, I expect them to sharpen their pencil with me. Do we do that with our product when we go to business? Say we go to a sales event and a bunch of people are together and, they're walking through, that's something that I would take part in, is a bunch of artists would get together and try to sell their stuff. Would we build in that extra 10% or so?
Jason, that's a personal thing. I know an engineering team that marks everything up 8% because they know procurement's going to want a 5% discount. It's a personal thing. That's the game. You're going to have, that's in your heart, dude. If you're a guy that doesn't want a discount, then you got to learn to sell value and not. If it's easy to say, hey, let's mark it up 10% and then mark it down 10% when they ask, that's it.
Okay.
I sold a bedroom suit one time on Craigslist and marked it for $800, and the person called me an hour away and said, hey, I'm coming to look at that. I said, okay. Went right on Craigslist, changed it to $1,200. She calls me back and she goes, hey, I was just looking at this. We're on our way. I bumped up to 12. What's going on? I said, well, that's just in case you don't buy it. I've had some other calls. So what do you think? She's not going to negotiate with me when she shows up. It's over.
Yeah.
I know you can't do that at a show, but you just got to think of ways to do it differently. But
Right.
that's such a personal thing for you. What I would do is one show do it and one show don't, and figure out which one you like.
Thank you.
Do what works.
Mm-hmm.
Case,
that,
if
please
I
go
can
ahead.
help in the future or any of these calls, you know where my heart is. Max knows where my heart is. If I can help any of these guys, whatever level, just let me know. I'll help in any way I can.
That's awesome. We really appreciate it. We were blessed to have you today. Thank you so much. And if there are guys that want to reach out to you specifically, guys, reach out to your advisors or me, and we can get you connected to Brett, and we'll make something happen. But thank you again. Your time is incredibly valuable, and we're so fortunate. Thank you guys. And everybody have a great day. Stay safe.
Cool. Thank you guys. See ya.
Thanks, Brett. Thanks, Casey.
Take care.